Before Nike became one of the largest athletic brands in the world, before the swoosh appeared on jerseys, stadiums, and city streets across continents, there was a former track athlete with a distribution contract and limited capital. Philip Hampson Knight was born in 1938 in Portland, Oregon. His father was a newspaper publisher who emphasized discipline and independence. Knight was not raised in corporate privilege. He worked early jobs, including newspaper shifts, developing familiarity with structured routines and deadlines. At the University of Oregon, Knight ran middle-distance track under coach Bill Bowerman. Bowerman was known for strict training methods and obsessive attention to equipment detail. He frequently modified shoes, believing weight reduction and sole design could affect race outcomes. Knight was not an elite runner, but he understood competitive athletics from the inside. After serving 1 year in the U.S. Army, Knight enrolled at Stanford Graduate School of Business. There he wrote a paper proposing that Japanese athletic shoes could compete with dominant German brands such as Adidas and Puma. German manufacturers controlled the high-performance footwear market. Their products were respected, but expensive. Knight believed Japanese manufacturing efficiency could disrupt that dominance. In 1962, he traveled to Japan and met executives at Onitsuka Tiger. Despite lacking a formal company structure, he secured distribution rights for the Western United States. He returned to Oregon with samples and a plan. In 1964, Knight partnered with Bill Bowerman. They formed Blue Ribbon Sports. The company's early operations were minimal. Knight stored inventory in his parents' basement. He sold shoes directly at track meets throughout the Pacific Northwest, operating from the trunk of his car. There was no formal retail channel. Orders were handwritten. Inventory turnover was unpredictable. Cash flow was tight. Bowerman contributed technical insight. He continued altering the imported shoes, adjusting midsoles, reducing weight, and refining traction patterns. By the late 1960s, Blue Ribbon Sports was generating steady revenue. However, the partnership with Onitsuka Tiger became unstable. As Blue Ribbon grew, control over distribution and branding became a point of friction. Knight recognized a structural vulnerability. As a distributor, the company lacked ownership over product development and manufacturing. In the early 1970s, legal disputes emerged between Blue Ribbon Sports and Onitsuka. The partnership deteriorated. Knight and Bowerman made the decision to manufacture independently. The company needed a new identity. They selected the name Nike, referencing the Greek goddess of victory. The logo was created by Carolyn Davidson, a graphic design student at Portland State University. She was paid $35. The mark was simple, abstract, and inexpensive to reproduce. Nike began developing proprietary products. One of the earliest technical innovations came from Bowerman's experimentation with a waffle iron. He poured rubber into the iron's grid pattern to create a lightweight outsole with improved traction. The result became the Nike Waffle Trainer, launched during the 1970s running boom in the United States. Jogging had transitioned from a niche athletic practice into a mainstream fitness activity. Nike capitalized on this expansion of consumer demand. Revenue increased rapidly. However, the company faced chronic liquidity problems. Rapid growth required capital for manufacturing, marketing, and distribution. Banks were reluctant to extend significant credit to a young, expanding company with volatile margins. Knight later described constant negotiations with lenders and suppliers to maintain operational continuity. Despite strong sales momentum, Nike operated under financial strain throughout much of the decade. In 1980, Nike went public. The initial public offering provided capital for expansion and stabilized parts of its balance sheet. By the early 1980s, Nike had established dominance in the running category. But the market shifted. Aerobics and fitness classes became widespread in the United States. Reebok targeted this demographic with footwear specifically designed for aerobics participants, particularly women, a segment Nike had not prioritized. Reebok's revenue surged. Nike's growth slowed dramatically. Market share declined. The company needed repositioning. In 1984, Nike signed Michael Jordan, a rookie entering the NBA. Instead of a conventional endorsement agreement, Nike structured a deal that included revenue participation and a dedicated product line. Air Jordan launched in 1985. The shoe's black and red color scheme violated NBA uniform regulations, resulting in fines when worn during games. Nike integrated the controversy into its marketing strategy, framing the product as disruptive. Air Jordan generated substantial first-year revenue and redefined athlete brand partnerships. Nike transitioned from performance-focused messaging to personality-driven branding. In 1988, the company launched the Just Do It campaign. Advertising investments increased significantly. Nike commercials became narrative-driven and cinematic, often focusing on individual athletes' intensity rather than product specifications. Throughout the 1990s, Nike expanded aggressively into international markets. Soccer became a strategic focus, particularly in Europe and Latin America. Endorsements expanded to global figures and national teams. The swoosh became globally recognizable. At the same time, Nike faced reputational challenges. Investigations and activist groups criticized labor practices in overseas factories producing Nike products. Allegations included low wages and unsafe working conditions. Media coverage intensified scrutiny. Nike initially responded defensively, arguing it did not directly own the factories. Over time, the company implemented supply chain audits, transparency reports, and compliance programs. The controversy became one of the most significant corporate accountability cases of the 1990s. Despite reputational damage, revenue growth continued. In the 2000s, Nike began restructuring its distribution model. The company invested heavily in direct-to-consumer retail, branded flagship stores, and digital infrastructure. E-commerce became a priority. Nike reduced reliance on wholesale partnerships and increased margin control through direct sales channels. The company also integrated digital technology into product ecosystems. Mobile applications such as Nike Training Club and Nike Run Club strengthened consumer data collection and engagement. By the 2010s, Nike had evolved into a vertically integrated multinational corporation. It operated across footwear, apparel, equipment, and digital services. Annual revenues reached tens of billions of dollars. Its global headquarters in Beaverton, Oregon, expanded into a corporate campus housing research laboratories, design studios, marketing divisions, and executive leadership. From a distribution startup in 1964 to a publicly traded global enterprise, Nike's growth reflected shifts in global manufacturing, sports marketing strategy, athlete endorsements, and digital commerce. The company's trajectory included dependency on foreign suppliers, legal disputes, cash flow instability, aggressive competitive battles, public controversy. Strategic reinvention. Nike began as Blue Ribbon Sports, importing shoes from Japan. It transitioned into a product innovator, it became a marketing-driven brand, and ultimately, it established itself as one of the most influential corporations in the athletic industry. The swoosh now appears in nearly every major sports market worldwide. But its origins trace back to a former runner, a coach experimenting with rubber molds, and a small distribution agreement negotiated overseas. What began as a regional footwear distributor became a global commercial force operating at scale across continents.